Hey neighbors, welcome back to Heart of the Shore, the show from Love of Humanity, where we sit with our community at the kitchen table and talk about the things that actually shape our days. The bills, the air our kids breathe, the ground under our feet, and the little decisions we can each make that add up to something bigger. I'm glad you're here. Today we're going to talk about something that, until recently, didn't even feel like a kitchen table topic. We're going to talk about data centers. Yeah, big, windowless buildings full of computers. The kind of place most of us drive past without a second thought. Well, it turns out those buildings are showing up in a big way in New Jersey, and they're already inside our electric bill. So, before you tune out and think, this isn't for me, stay with me for a few minutes. Because if you opened your June 2025 PJM bill last summer and felt your stomach drop, this episode is going to explain why. And it's going to give you some practical things you can do, both at home and as a citizen, to push back. Let's start at the beginning. What is a data center? In plain language, it's a warehouse full of computers, all connected to the internet, running 24 hours a day, every single day, with cooling systems and backup generators and racks of equipment. They host the websites, the apps, the cloud storage, the streaming services, the AI tools, basically the digital plumbing of modern life. Most of the time, we never see them, but they have a real physical footprint. They use enormous amounts of electricity, they need a lot of water for cooling, and they kick out heat and noise, and sometimes diesel emissions from their backup generators. Now, data centers aren't new. We've had them for decades, but something changed in the last couple of years. Artificial intelligence, the kind of AI you see in chat assistants and image generators, run on specialized chips that draw way more power than the older generation of servers. The Department of Energy has pointed out that an AI-heavy data center can use 10 to 50 times as much energy per square foot as a typical office building. That's a serious step up. And the industry is racing to build more of them, faster and bigger than ever before. Which brings us to New Jersey. The New Jersey Policy Perspective, that's a research organization in Trenton, published a report in late 2025 they called Fool's Gold. And the headline finding is one I want every household in this state to hear. According to NJPP, data centers were the main driver of the roughly 20% jump in electric bills New Jersey families saw in June of 2025. 20% in one shot, right when the air conditioners were going on for the summer. That extra cost wasn't a wildfire, it wasn't a hurricane, it wasn't a fuel spike, it was capacity. It was the price utilities pay to make sure the grid can serve every customer at peak demand. And the auction that sets that price, the PJM capacity auction for 2025 and 2026, saw AI data centers responsible for nearly 70% of the demand increase. Read that one more time with me. Of all the new electricity demand in our region, homes growing, businesses growing, all of it, almost 7 out of 10 new megawatts came from data centers. That cost gets spread across all of us. Your bill went up because somebody else's compute went up.
NJPP went further. They projected that by 2030, nearly 10% of all of New Jersey's electricity could be going to data centers, 1 out of every 10 kilowatt hours. And the Federal Electric Power Research Institute and the U.S. Department of Energy have similar national numbers. Data centers were about 4% of U.S. electricity in recent years and could climb to about 9% by 2030. That's a doubling and then some in a very compressed window. Now, I can already hear someone saying, okay, but isn't that just the cost of progress? Isn't AI going to bring jobs and tax revenue? It's a fair question. And the honest answer is, it brings some, but not nearly as much as advertised, and not necessarily to the people paying the bill. Data centers are not labor-intensive once they're built. A facility serving hundreds of thousands of homes worth of electricity might employ a few dozen people in the long run. Compare that to a hospital, a school, a manufacturing plant. Far fewer permanent jobs per megawatt of energy use. And many of the deals come with property tax breaks or utility rate structures that quietly shift costs from the developer onto regular ratepayers. So when I tell you, neighbor, that you're paying for somebody else's compute, I'm not exaggerating. That's literally how the regional capacity market works. Now, let's talk about the part that doesn't show up on a bill, but it shows up in our lungs and in our kids' classrooms. A lot of the new electricity we need to power these data centers in the short term is going to come from existing fossil fuel plants, coal and natural gas, that are running harder than they were planning to. NJPP highlighted something painful in their report. Across the PJM region, that's our regional grid, more than half of the existing coal and gas plants are within a mile of an environmental justice community. That's communities that are already carrying more than their share of pollution. That's neighborhoods in places like Newark, Camden, Patterson, parts of central and southern New Jersey, where childhood asthma rates are already higher, and where families have been told for a generation, just be patient, the air will get cleaner. Now we're being told to run those plants harder so AI can answer search queries faster. NJPP cited a national estimate that public health damages from data center air pollution were about $6 billion in 2023, and that figure could rise to as much as $20 billion a year. Those numbers are abstract, I know, so let me make it concrete. That's emergency room visits. That's lost days of work. That's a child with an inhaler in their backpack. That's a grandmother who can't take her usual walk on a hot July afternoon. We pay those costs. The data center company doesn't pay those costs. And it doesn't have to be this way.
Earlier this spring, the New Jersey Senate took up a resolution, Senate Resolution 18, urging every state in our PJM region to require data centers to source their electricity from new clean energy sources. The exact language matters here. It says, quote, "This House urges all states in the PJM interconnection region to adopt measures that require data centers to source their electricity from new clean energy sources." End quote. That word "new" is the key. It means a data center can't just plug into the existing grid, push everyone else's emissions higher, and call itself green because it bought some certificates. It would have to bring new wind, solar, storage, or other clean generation onto the system to match its load. That's how you grow without making everyone else carry the cost. NJPP recommended a few practical guardrails along the same lines. Define what a data center is, so it can be regulated as a special class of customer. Require transparency on cost sharing, so families don't quietly absorb the bill. Standardize how the grid forecasts data center load so we don't keep getting caught flat-footed. And take a hard look at any subsidies, tax breaks, rate breaks, incentive packages that don't pay back what they take. That is a sensible, technically sound framework. The question is whether we, as residents, push for it. So what can a regular family do between right now and dinner tonight? I've got 3 buckets for you. Inside the home, inside the bill, and inside the civic process. Inside the home, focus on what you control. Most New Jersey households have access to free or low-cost energy efficiency programs through their utility, JCP&L, PSE&G, Atlantic City Electric, Orange and Rockland, through the New Jersey Clean Energy Program. Free home energy assessments, free or rebated weatherization, smart thermostats, LED lighting, heat pump rebates, attic insulation. If your house was built before about 1990 and you've never had an audit, you are very likely leaving real dollars on the table every month. Don't wait for a perfect time. Schedule one this week. Search New Jersey Clean Energy Program or call your utility and ask for a home energy assessment. Inside the bill, look at the assistance programs. LIHEAP, that's the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program, runs through the state's Department of Community Affairs and helps cover heating and cooling costs for income-qualified households. The Universal Service Fund, USF, can lower your monthly utility bill if you qualify. PAGE, Payment Assistance for Gas and Electric, can help if you've fallen behind. Lifeline can help seniors and people with disabilities with utility costs. Most families who qualify for one of these qualify for 2 or 3. The application is the bottleneck, not the eligibility. Find a community action agency in your county or check with your local senior center or library and ask for help filling out the form. We've got a previous episode and a printable benefits guide on lovehumanity.charity that walks through every one of these.
Inside the civic process, this is where most of us underestimate our power. When a data center is proposed in New Jersey, it goes through local planning and zoning review,
state utility regulators at the BPU, and often a regional grid review at PJM. Every single one of those stages has public comment. Most of those comments are submitted by industry. Very few come from regular residents. So a calm, well-written letter from a homeowner, quoting your June 2025 bill, asking what the cost-sharing assumptions are, asking whether the developer is bringing new clean generation onto the grid, carries more weight than people realize. Show up at your town's planning board meeting. Ask your municipal clerk when the next utility rate case or capacity-related filing is open for comment. Write to your state senator about Senate Resolution 18 and any successor bills that put real teeth on data center clean power requirements. You don't have to be an expert. You just have to be present. And one more thing I want to leave you with. This is not anti-technology. We use AI tools at Love of Humanity. They help us draft, organize, plan, and reach more families faster. The question isn't whether we want this technology. The question is whether we want it to grow in a way that lifts everyone or in a way that quietly taxes the people least able to afford it. We can have both, the innovation and the fairness, but only if we ask for both, out loud, in writing, at the meetings. If today's episode helped, share it with one neighbor. Forward the link in a text. Mention it at your block party. Send it to the person on your street who you know reads everything and shares everything. That's how a kitchen table show actually changes a kitchen table bill. I'm Love of Humanity. This has been Heart of the Shore. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll see you next time.